This is the form and function lecture. Form is a pattern, and from that pattern you can't tell why it was created, you can't tell what it's for, but you can guess. If you have a function that you want, you create a form to fulfill that function. Sometimes we describe the function as a problem. We describe the function as a project. And what you're doing is creating documentation. That's a form. So your goal is to find a form, always as an engineer, to fulfill a function. Your goal is to respect previous forms and figure out what their function is. For example, what are these blue lines for in the engineering notebook? Why are there 2 double lines at the top? Are you going to find associated with this notebook a manual that describes what the function is? The goal of the form is to inspire a variety of functions to help sell this notebook. So they're not going to say, you must use a notebook in this function, but most of you don't even look at the form of the notebook and let it inspire you to help you organize your work. From an older person's perspective, you look at that notebook and you disrespect its form. You don't let its form inspire a function of it, and you're not creative with that form. You want to replace the form totally. Okay, so let's get back to some basics. There's this peg game from Cracker Barrel. Pegs are these colored things right here. Does the word peg describe form or function? The Greeks believed that there were ideal forms. Is there an ideal peg? Is there another form of a peg? What are these pegs? Where do they come from? Why this weird shape for this game? Well, these pegs are also called golf tees. An object's name sometimes describes its function. Golf tee describes a function of these Cracker Barrel game pegs. So which is the form name and which is the function name? Well, peg is a bad name because it's sort of describing another kind of a function. So the form names are harder than the function names. Plato believed that there was an ideal horse. After looking at all the horses, an ideal horse will emerge in your brain. If you live with horses, all of a sudden an ideal horse will start to appear. Every single horse that you see will be an imperfect version of the ideal form. So reality is just filled with imperfect, approximate form. Are there ideal golf tees? Are there ideal pegs? Ask yourself that question. If you're trying to create form, ask yourself that question. So here are some unknown forms. Generically, they're called jigs. They're basically used to hold something in place while you do something to it. So the form name is a jig. It's just a generic class of a whole bunch of different physical objects, and they each have a different function. So your question is, show me its function, show me how to use it, I want to know. The word jig doesn't really tell you an awful lot about the function of that form, other than it's just to hold something in place while you do something to it. This peg goes in a hole, then you smash an object against it. So there's a table with a whole bunch of holes in it, and you have maybe 30 of these things, and you put them around the object, you smash it into it, then you smash these pegs into the other side of it. This right here goes on a door, it clamps on a door, and it guides a drill that goes in this hole to cut the bolt that throws into the door jamb. And this is where the doorknobs go. So this cuts the holes that the doorknobs go into. Okay, so here's an unknown form. You have no names associated with it. With a physical object, many of you will look at it and begin to try to guess its function. With your notebook, or with the engineering documentation of previous teams, you won't sit there and try to guess its function. You will throw it away and try to create a new form, and it's worse probably than the previous that you're not looking at. The goal is to take the current form and improve upon it. So what's wrong with this? Well, it has no names associated with it. You have no idea what it's for. It doesn't have any context. There's no story behind it. 1,000 questions associated with it. Let this inspire you. Everybody says, well, I want to be an engineer because I want hands-on experiences. Well, you want hands-on with what? Previously created form. You want to feel the form. You want to be inspired by the form. You want to think about reuse possibilities. So it's one thing to let form inspire you. It's another thing to create form itself. Now what's interesting is, if you go through the patents and you look at the form of those patents and they inspire a completely different function, you can patent that completely different function. Why are these piles of junk so attractive? Why do you want to just sit there and stare at them? Well, it's piled up tension. How is that pile of junk piled up tension? Well, it's form that wants to be used. It's form that had a use, it had a purpose in life. There are objects there that existed for a reason, and now that reason's sort of mushed. They're sitting there saying, give me new life, give me new reuse. Reuse is an incredibly important term in engineering, because if we look at this, what does this look like right here? Maybe a hubcap that's been decorated a little bit. So if we reuse this, people will say, hey, I know what a hubcap is. Now this new function of this old form is what? Is it like a hubcap to try to pretty up the wheel, or to hide the lug nuts? What's the purpose of this? So the past form can help inform the current context. It's preserving memory and history, and in a way it creates time. Function then is what an engineer searches for when they write down the problem statement or they describe the project. Form is a way of accomplishing that function. If we look right here at the evolution of an electric drill, here was a hand drill and you push down here with your shoulder. Here you can see a little bit better shoulder push and a hand push. So you can push with your shoulder and your hand and crank it. Here you can see one of the early pre-electric drills where you have this spinning motion and it's got a pistol kind of a grip, so it looks more like a gun. And here you can see the evolution of that gun module where it's perfectly balanced. The center of gravity is right in here. The battery is balancing this. You're pushing down right here. So here you can see the function is evolving the form, and there might be an incredible number of species of this electric drill today for different purposes. So why? What causes all this? So what we do when we engineer is we engineer in between form and function. We get clear about the function that we want, and that helps inspire a new form. So what's changing? Well, both the function and the form are changing. So here's a picture of bad form. This is one of my brother's patents. This is a woman's breast. Right in here are cancerous nodules. This is a shot-like device, although it's a big scary shot. It plunges into the woman's breast, guided by a computer. It cuts out this cancerous nodule using a vacuum pump, pulls it down here into a glass vial. Then it shoots out a staple and staples where the cancerous nodule was. It's bad form because when the customers looked at the prototypes, the patients, the doctors looked at it, they're both scared. They go, I don't want to stick that in somebody. The customer can't look at it and see its function. They can't see its goodness, why it even exists. Its function is hidden from them. The truth about it, that it's helping revolutionize breast cancer, is lost totally. It's not beautiful at all. Its beauty is not helping inform the person as to what its function is. They can't guess its costs. They can't estimate its repair. It's bad form. Actually, they had to hire these design engineers to come in and add all those things to this device before it started selling and changing how breast cancer surgery is done in the United States. But here's another one, and this is associated with the word change. As an engineer, what you're trying to do is always change people's lives. Sliced bread changed people's lives. But when it first came out, the sliced bread machines were viewed as a novelty, as a work of art, as something that wasn't necessary. And so during World War II, U.S. officials and the federal government banned sliced bread. They said, this is a fluffy, extravagant function that's not needed in society, and we really don't need them. And then after 3 months of everybody in the United States complaining that sliced bread saved time, saved labor, helped keep bread fresh longer, soft longer, so less was wasted. After about 3 months of national complaining, the ban was lifted. So this is an example of function not being valued properly, not being sold by engineers in a way that pinpointed its goodness to the human species. Ornaments. So we've been talking a lot about decorating something and making it beautiful. You've got to worry about the decorations. Let's take tattoos. This is a great example, tattoos. When I was a kid, my parents would say, never get a tattoo. You can't ever get them off, and they lower people's respect of you. Your generation is inspired by tattoos. They're part of living life. They help make you different from other people. They help make you who you are. They help display goodness. Help focus conversations on what's good. The problem with ornaments is that they can reduce the freedom to change in the future, just like tattoos do. When people were making homes out of logs, they refused to change to stick construction. That's what they called 2x4s, sticks. They said, how do you even use these sticks? How do they create something beautiful? Log homes are beautiful. This still goes on today, but log homes now are viewed as an extravagant ornament, sort of the opposite of the sticks. Peg and hole construction instead of nails. Nails became cheap, but people refused to use nails. Instead, they drill a hole and use a hammer and get a round piece of wood and smash it into the hole. And that's how they put up stick buildings. Way after nails were plentiful and cheap. And today, why would you want to use a nail when you can use a screw? With a screw, you can unscrew it and replace it. With a nail, you chew up the wood when you get it out again. So form that's not connected to immediate function prevents change. So your goal is to find some form that you don't understand why it exists and project function onto it. So go to the hardware store and find something you have no idea what it's for. Don't read the manual. Just project function. Find a piece of paper that has a design on it, like a pattern, and try to project function on top of it.